Peace be unto you and greetings, family. I want to talk about a topic today that may benefit you or someone that you know. So I want you to share this video. And what this is the do's and don'ts of what to do when you're stopped by the police. You have any type of police encounters, whether it's immigration, whether it's DEA, FBI, whatever the police encounter is. I want to share some information, some tips of do's and don'ts. All right, so let's talk about what happens if you're stopped for questioning. First thing you do is to stay calm. What you don't want to do is run from the police. We've been watching the news. We see what happens if we're stopped by the police and we run. We typically, or we make sudden movements. What happens is they say we reach for our gun in our waistband, or we get shot in the back. So always stay calm if you possibly can stay calm. Do not run away. Please do not run away. Again, do not make any sudden moves. Do not reach in your pocket. Don't get into an argument with a police officer. I've been taught that we respect authority as long as it doesn't kill you or violate some type of religious aspect. All right. So what you want to do is respect their authority. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. It goes a long way. When an officer feels like their authority is being pressed upon, what they're going to do is they're going to press back on you. So you want to respect that authority. The end of the day, you want to be able to move on from that police encounter with your life intact, your limbs, your life, and everything else intact. You don't want to make any statements, right? So if officer starts asking you a bunch of questions, you ask the officer, am I free to leave, officer? He may want to ask you your name. You give him your name. You have to identify yourself. Certain states, if you don't identify yourself, that may end up becoming a misdemeanor charge of failure to ID. Now, you don't identify yourself if you feel that it may be incriminating. So you can withhold silence. They may end up arresting you anyway, but you're able to protect your rights. I always say, give your name and then you remain silent, okay? You don't want to give out any information because the officer may not have any information, and by you talking, you're giving them what they need. Most times, there's nothing going on. So the more you talk, the worse the scenario is. So you want to always remain silent. Next thing, do not consent to a search. If they search you on the street and they say, may I search you? No. Now, if you have no choice, you let them search you. If they come to your house without a warrant and they ask to search your home, the answer is no. Where is the warrant? If they stop you in your vehicle and traffic warrant, traffic violations, you ran a red light, or they'll say you ran a red light. What you don't want to do is give consent to search your vehicle. It's important. Now, if they search your vehicle anyway, that's fine. You can always deal with that later in court. Again, the bottom line is to be able to walk away with your life and your limbs, okay? So when you're stopped for questioning, let's talk about what happens when you are stopped in your vehicle. Now, if it's during the daytime or at night, you want to make sure that you stop at a safe place. What I suggest you do is you put your blinkers on, so you let them know that you recognize them. Because if you are trying to stop at a safe place and you keep driving and you don't slow it down and you don't let them know that you recognize that they're behind you, then what will end up happening is you may get a separate charge called evading with a motor vehicle. And I know here in Texas, that's a felony. Now, and then you don't want to give them any other reason to assault you or hurt you or put any additional charges on you. Now, you always want to, especially if it's at night, you always want to make sure that you pull into an area that's lit. One, to protect yourself. Two, in order to protect the officers at the same time. You don't want to stop in the middle of the road. You want to move over to the side out of traffic because typically the officer is going to come to the side of the road. So you want to take the both of you out of harm's way. Now, again, you don't want to coast for blocks. You want, as soon as you possibly can in a safe spot, stop. You don't want a felony arrest, all right? So if you are stopped at night, what you want to do is put the lights on in your vehicle. so that the officers can see your hand. What you don't want them to say is that you are making what's called fortuitive movement, where they see a bunch of movement going on, thinking that you're trying to stash some contraband, some drugs, something that's illegal, or trying to pull out a weapon. So you want to make sure that you put a light on so the officer can see what's going on in your vehicle. You want to stay in your car. You do not want to get out, because officers are human beings just like you are, and they have anxiety just as much as you do. They want to go home safe and sound as well. So you want to stay in your vehicle, no sudden movements. You want to be polite. Again, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. It goes a long way with a police officer, and it goes a long way with authority. Just imagine if your child was very rude and disrespectful to your authority, how would you feel? These are human beings that do their job every day. Now, again, be careful what you say. Anything you say may and can be used against you. So you don't want to do a bunch of talking. You want to give them your license, your registration. You always want to ask, officer, what am I being pulled over for? Sometimes you may get a random stop, an illegal driving while black stop, you know. And so you want to do as little as possible. Most times the officers are going to ask you, do you have any weapons? Do you have any drugs? This is not the time to say yes. Now, you shouldn't have it in your car anyway, right? Your registration should be up to date. You shouldn't have any warrants. You shouldn't be riding dirty. But my suggestion is, if you do, as a lawyer, please make my job easy. Do not say anything. You give the officer your registration, your license, give them your name, ask them what you're being stopped for, and that's it. Now, if they're going to arrest you, if they're going to search the car anyway, then it's nothing you can do. Again, the goal is to be able to walk away, to drive away with your life and your limbs intact and your liberty intact. Now, if your documents are out of reach, you want to specifically ask the officer if you can retrieve your documents. You want to tell them where those documents are, and you want to keep your hands in present view, in plain view at all time, and reach and grab them and let them know what you're doing. You don't want any sudden movements. You don't want them to believe that you're stashing anything illegal away or retrieving a gun. So you let the officer know what you are doing as far as retrieving your documents. You do have the right to ask the officer why you have been stopped. And again, do not consent to the search of the vehicle. Now, if they want to search the vehicle without your consent, there's nothing you can do to stop the officer. But don't you consent to a search, because if you consent, they'll go in your trunk, your glove compartment, in your seats, and they'll find something. And you want to eliminate any opportunities for anybody to put any illegal contraband in your vehicle as well. So never stop the officer from physically doing the search. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. Let them do what they're going to do so that you can fight later in court. It's better to deal with a jury of 12 or a jury of 6 than to deal with pallbearers who are carrying your casket of 6, okay? So again, I'm trying to give you the tips so that you may be able to walk away to fight another day. Now, I used to teach a class, and the first thing I taught in the class was never confess, never take a test. So if you're driving and you're suspected of drunk driving, an officer says, do a field sobriety test, and you may have been drinking and driving, I wouldn't suggest you take a field sobriety test. I wouldn't suggest you confess that you drank any alcohol. Again, let your lawyers deal with that. What I'm trying to teach you or give tips on is to protect your liberty and protect your rights. If they're going to arrest you, they're going to arrest you anyway. And if you refuse, more than likely, you will be arrested. Now, if you don't refuse, more than likely, if you've been drinking, you're going to be arrested anyway. So the goal is to protect your liberty so that you'll have another day to fight. Now, again, don't confess to doing drugs. Don't confess to doing alcohol, drinking alcohol during your stop. Now, let's talk about searches. Do not consent to have your vehicle or your home searched. Now, if they have a warrant, then that warrant is limited to where they can search. You ask, show me the warrant. You look at it. Most times they say, I got a warrant to search the house, and you open the door, you let them in, and then sometimes they don't have a warrant, all right? So you always want to ask to see the warrant. Now, make sure you see it, all right? They should leave you a copy of that warrant as well. If they come in your house without a warrant, regardless, do not physically stop them from coming into your house. You can argue that later at another time. The goal is for your life, your limbs, and your liberty to be intact to fight for another day. Do not voluntarily aid an officer in the search of your house. I suggest you stand back and let them do what they do, because you may be accused of interfering with them. And that's me. Even if they find nothing, that may mean another criminal case against you with interference of the duties of a police officer. Now, if they do find something that may be illegal, may not be illegal, what you don't want to do is explain what that is. Again, never confess, never take a test, don't say anything, remain silent, because anything you say most times will be used against you, okay? So what happens if you're arrested? Do not resist, because that's a separate charge in itself. Now, I would say resist if it's excessive force and it means your life. I wouldn't expect you to lay down there and take the pain, but, you know, there's caveats to that. And I've seen many times where officers are arresting somebody and they use excessive force as a form of power and control. And what ends up happening is my clients receive an additional charge. So I want you, you know, respecting authority goes a long way. Now, let the officer, once you're arrested, wherever you may be, in your vehicle, on the street, in your house, always let the officer know that you will remain silent. You want to give your lawyers an opportunity to be able to protect your liberties. Do not say anything. There may be instances where you're arrested and an officer says he's either going to let you go if you confess. Say, example, you're driving in a car and they're looking for some marijuana or some drugs, and they say, tell me where the marijuana is, tell me where the gun is, and if you confess to it, I promise you and your friend are not going to go to jail. Do not believe that. Officers are trained to lie to get information. And so what you don't want to get caught up is giving away your defense because someone lied to you. So again, do not confess, do not take any tests, ask to see a search warrant, do not talk to the officer, do not give information. When you go to jail, I suggest you not say too much on the phone when you're talking to your family members or kinfolk in order to get you out of jail. Don't talk to the inmates in custody, because sometimes they'll have people planted there to get information from you. My goal is to not only to protect your life, but also to protect your liberty. Now, when you're arrested, make sure you ask for your lawyer immediately, because once you start asking for your lawyer immediately, then they know that they can ask any questions of you, because anything that they ask of you after that it will not be admissible in court. Now, you do have a right to make a phone call. I suggest that you make that phone call to somebody who knows a lawyer, and prepare your family in case you know that you're going to be arrested, okay? So if you know you're out there doing some dirty work, if you know you're out there, say there's some type of civil disobedience that you want to partake in, then I suggest you get your bail money together. I suggest you get your lawyer ready on standby, or a family member who knows where to get all of this information if it should happen. But at the end of the day, what you want to do is to make sure that your life, your limbs, and your liberty are protected. You don't want to fight the police officers. You don't want to fight your case on the streets, and you don't want to put your life in jeopardy. Remember, respect for authority goes a long way. So hopefully these tips that I just gave you will help you when you're dealing with encounters with the police. So I have to give you this legal disclaimer as well. This checklist provides information about the law designed to help individuals safely cope with their own legal needs. But legal information is not the same as legal advice. The application of law to individual specific circumstances, you must go to great lengths to make sure that the information is accurate and useful. And I recommend you consult a lawyer if you want a professional assurance that this information I've given you or my interpretation of it is appropriate to your particular situation. And if you should ever need a lawyer, again, my name is Attorney Sadiyah Evangelista, and you can find me online or find a credible lawyer that will be able to fight for your rights. Thank you.